you. As we load in the room here, I just want to just start by thanking everybody who helped us get to this day and this point. You know, I was thinking the other day when my colleagues behind me, and I'll introduce them all in a second, took this vote. What we've done in the last 3.5 years in Boston with housing, we've done a lot. And when people say, well, it's not enough, we've done a lot, creating the Office of Housing Stability, putting money into low-income housing, building 9,000 units of low-income workforce housing. The CDCs that are here, I'm looking at you, creating veterans housing and putting housing and helping us with homeless housing and so much other pieces that we've done. So I just want to thank everyone in this room who had something to do with, or everything to do with, where we are today. Housing for people with disabilities, making sure that we did the veterans housing over there. It's incredible. So thank you all. So I want to start by thanking City Council Michael Flaherty, who helped guide this process, this robust process. Thank you, Michael. Reaching out to tenant groups, landlords, activists, and so much more, so thank you for that. I want to thank City Councilor Ayanna Pressley for her advocacy and working on this issue and these issues around housing for a long time. These councilors aren't new to this conversation. I've been out there pushing for a long time. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Anissa Sabi-George, who is also pushing on housing, worked to get money into the budget to deal with homelessness in our school systems and working on housing. So thank you, Councilor, for your great support. City Councilor Matt O'Malley, who obviously in his district of West Roxbury, Rosendale, Jamaica Plain, has been an advocate and a leader and a champion in so many different ways. So thank you as well, Councilor O'Malley. And I think that's the council. I got all the council. And we have State Representative China Tyler, who is going to be our champion now. As soon as I sign that document, we're doing the handoff. We're doing the handoff. So you can take it up to the building I once loved and worked in every day. I still do, so thank you, Representative. And again, I just want to thank so many people and Michael again for his thoughtful leadership. I know that a lot of people say, well, we should get this thing done sooner. But Michael really did give an opportunity for people to have their voices heard. And I think that the one thing that they can't criticize us for here in Boston is that we don't allow people to have their voices heard. I want to thank the team that worked in the city side with everyone, Sheila and Bob and Kate, the Office of Housing Stability. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Our law department, Sammy. Our law department, Sammy, for helping draft this legislation and working it, and Representative Tyler, as I mentioned earlier, is going to work with our partners at the State House in the next phase. This legislation is named in honor of a Boston legend and advocate, Jim Brooks. Jim devoted his life to fighting for housing, civil rights, and disability rights, and accessibility rights all across our city. And when you think about, I think Jim would be proud today in this step that's been taken to protect Boston's communities. And the only thing I would say, it's actually sad that we are in 2017 having to pass something like this to protect people with where we've come from, what we've done. Boston's going through historic growth in our city. In the last 3.5 years, we've added 30,000 new people living in our city of Boston, and we're at about 680,000 people, and we're going to have probably, I don't know what's going to happen. It doesn't seem like it's stopping. The growth's going to stop. We had a housing shortage before the 30,000 people moved into our city, and they're compounding that happening. It's putting pressure on housing prices, as you know, and as we all know here. Our city's growth has to be for everyone, and something that we're very proud of. And I've been going around touting the fact that our city is a city for everyone, and we have to continue to keep it a city for everyone. We must make sure that no one is left behind, and we must protect our existing communities. And something that, my mother, I grew up on Taft Street in Dorchester, so I talk about it all the time. My mother still lives there. It's all 3 decades, and it's changing. It's changing. It's slowly but surely condoing. And when I go over there, I see young people, which is exciting to see, but it's not the same young people as when we were growing up. And I think that's something that neighborhood's changing, and we have a mix on that street of older residents that have lived, honestly owned houses on that street for 50+ years, and they're not going anywhere. But as those houses change one at a time, we're starting to see more and more different people coming in. Not that I don't want them in, but you know what I'm talking about. 3 decades were built for families to be able to bring lots of people into a home, I think anyway. But we're going to use every tool in our toolbox to make sure that tenants are protected from unfair evictions. We're going to make sure that we are creating new tools to help them as well, and that's what we're doing in some cases today. This legislation is just one piece. This isn't the answer to it all, and thank you, everyone here, and thank you for and thank you for being frustrated with me, and thank you for pushing us, and thank you for holding pat in this room here on a couple things we talked about, saying no, there's no retreat on it. I want to thank you for that, because at the end of the day, I think we're in a good place as far as the bill we're sending to the State House. This legislation will join 3 other proposals that we have at the State House dealing with very complex issues. The Jim Brooks Stabilization Act will help us gather real-time data on how many evictions are occurring and where. So that's something that we don't have, and we talk about data and the importance of data. The importance of having this data is us to keep an eye on what's happening in neighborhoods, and we'll have the data in front of us, real-time data. It's also going to allow us to move quickly to reach out to help and supports with residents to help them get legal representation so they understand their rights and they know their rights. And it will help us create a new program and protections for both tenants and landlords. So this is a landmark piece of legislation, housing legislation. This isn't about beating up landlords. This is about making sure that we get the rights for people out there and we work collectively together. I think it strikes a thoughtful balance between protecting tenants' rights and recognizing the important role property owners play in our city of Boston, in the growth of our city. And it also knows, it also will hopefully give confidence with our tenants as well. Again, I want to end by thanking everyone for your great work on this stuff. We can be excited today, but as you know, once that document's signed, that's the excitement of today is over. And we need to go to the next level and support our colleague, Representative Tyler, to make sure that she has the support she needs up at the State House. And as you know, this is a home rule petition from the city of Boston, so it benefits only Boston, but we still need to convince other people around the Commonwealth of Massachusetts why this is important, because there's other cities and towns that are in the same boat, if not a worse boat than we are. So again, thank you for coming today, and it's my honor now to introduce to you City Council Michael Flaherty.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to be excited to finally be able to go to the first city event and not have the mayor bark at me about this legislation. It started last Christmas. Everywhere we went, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. We got to get that passed, and so he's been sort of dogged on it. Of course, when it comes to the legislative branch, a lot like making a sausage. So lots of input went into it. But I want to obviously, on behalf of the City Council, 2/3 of which, a supermajority, had voted to support this. And my colleagues who are here, Ayanna Presley, Councilor Matt O'Malley, Councilor Anissa Sabi-George, I know others sent their regards as well. And we really appreciated working with Mayor Walsh on this and for asking us to join today. And it's interesting, government works best when people in government are working collaboratively with one another. And this was really a test case of how well it's working under Mayor Walsh's administration, working with colleagues in government to really make a difference, along with folks that know this probably better than anyone, which is all the housing activists here in the city of Boston. So a big round of applause for all of you. I want to take this opportunity to also thank Chief Sheila Dillon and her team at D&D. They did phenomenal work. So when the mayor wasn't barking at me, Sheila was barking at me, right? On behalf of him, and we talked, and I don't think she took a vacation all summer. We talked on Sundays, we were talking Saturday afternoons, so she was on it as well. Again, lots of moving parts. So this act, which the mayor took the initiative, again, as I mentioned, and filed last December, kicked off a healthy and constructive 10-month long dialogue on how we educate tenants across the city of their rights and how the city can deal with eradicating displacement. The lengthy and in-depth process in which the Boston City Council, working with the mayor and D&D, along with so many other stakeholders, many of whom in this room, was truly a collaborative effort. I'd also like to acknowledge the concerns of small property owners and the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, along with individual landlords, most of whom do a great job and are sensitive to the displacement crisis in our city. And also real estate attorneys, which made the hearings and the working sessions very interesting and lengthy. I can always blame it on the mayor, we can blame it on the lawyers. You always got to blame it on the lawyers. But they were all very engaged in the process and also voiced their thoughts, and as well as getting input from my 12 other colleagues. So while this home rule petition continues to go through the legislative process with a great lead sponsor and our newly elected state representative, we know that we need to keep in mind and continue to recognize that the work is not over and that the conversation is ongoing with respect to our collective goal to reduce evictions and displacement throughout our city. And it's sort of a good news, bad news. The good news is Boston is on fire in terms of we have the best colleges, universities, hospitals, health centers. Everybody wants to be here. Under the mayor's leadership, it's just exciting to hear from people from all over the country, all wanting to come to Boston. That's the great news. The bad news is we all need to be able to fit here, and folks are dealing with displacement, and so that's going to be the ongoing dialogue moving forward. So there's no doubt that we as a city have to continue to take a stand fighting against displacement, but we have more work to do. This is just the first step in the right direction to protect tenants and their families. And so congratulations to all of you. Today's a great day. So now I have the pleasure of introducing someone that we know each other very well. We've gotten to know each other really well over the last 10 months, you know. So when the mayor wasn't barking at me and when Sheila wasn't barking at me, he was barking at me. So I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, and that's Donnell Johnson. He represents the Right to the City Coalition, which is made up of advocates and landlords. Everybody here knows Donnell very well. He is building on years of community organizing. His work particularly coordinating the Right to City leadership development, political education, and community building strategies. Donnell and his team showed up at City Hall. They were in the council chambers, they were in the working sessions, outside of the halls on a pretty regular basis, keeping us up to date, working with us, and essentially being a leader to help craft this legislation. And also, on behalf of the council and also the mayor. And we really appreciate your patience, your collective patience in getting what we think is sort of a perfect document moving forward for our great state representative to do her work up at Beacon Hill. So without further ado, I need to say if it wasn't for him and everybody else in the room, we wouldn't be here. So Donnell, come on up and take a bow.
Go team! Go team! I am a really lucky guy today because my city councilor, my state rep, my mayor, and the administration and the community all agree on one thing. that stabilization in Boston is very important and needs to happen now. Right to the City Boston and the Boston Tenant Coalition are proud to join our supportive City Council members and the mayor as we move forward the Jim Brooks Stabilization Act. As we celebrate today, I'd like to remind us all of the vision that our citywide coalition is ultimately working toward. We envision a Boston where there is equal access to quality education, affordable housing, economic opportunities, accessible transportation, a healthy environment, and public resources for all. We envision a Boston where we preserve the best aspects of the characters of our neighborhoods. We envision a Boston where we celebrate the diverse backgrounds, languages, and cultures of our residents. We envision a Boston where young people have the resources to thrive, where working class families are stable, where community needs come before profit. We envision a city, state, and nation that invest in the public good and not private greed. The Jim Brooks Stabilization Act is one very important step in helping us reach this vision. The Act creates a mechanism for tenants facing eviction to be informed of their rights under the current existing state law. It helps the city track the rate of evictions so that together we can create targeted solutions that address the displacement crisis. And it provides new protections for former homeowners after foreclosure. We applaud the many hundreds of residents in Boston who stood up to fight back against displacement, rallied with us for their right to remain, and used their voices to testify about the displacement that corporate greed, landlords, and wealthy speculators are causing in our city. We thank the 53 organizations of the Right to Remain Coalition who worked tirelessly educating their members, the community, and our elected officials about the importance of this act. And we also thank all of the city councilors who support our efforts along the way. We move today forward determined to continue working for our vision for the city. We are ready to work with all of our elected officials and our public officials who pledge to ensure that all Bostonians have the right to what? Remain, reclaim, rebuild. Thank you.
Questions? Any questions for us? All right, we're just going to sign then. Okay.
Let's go, guys. Come on in. Get right over there.